Chapter 7. Working with New Motor Carrier Authority and MC number age restrictions. Starting a new motor carrier operation involves more than purchasing or leasing a truck, obtaining insurance, and receiving federal operating authority. Once the authority becomes active, the carrier must still convince freight brokers, shippers, factoring companies, insurance providers, and other transportation partners that the company is legitimate, properly managed, financially responsible, and capable of transporting freight safely. This creates one of the most frustrating situations faced by new carriers and their dispatchers. The carrier may have legal authority to operate. The truck may be insured, the driver may be qualified, the equipment may be ready, yet some freight brokers will still refuse to work with the company because its operating authority is too new. A dispatcher may locate an excellent load, verify that the truck can handle it, calculate an acceptable profit, and call the broker prepared to negotiate. The conversation may appear promising until the broker asks one question: how old is your authority? When the dispatcher explains that the authority has been active for only a few weeks, the broker may respond that the company must have 90 days, 6 months, or even a year of active authority before it can haul that broker's freight. To a new dispatcher, this may seem unfair or even contradictory. The federal government has authorized the carrier to operate, yet a private company refuses to offer it freight. Understanding this distinction is the foundation of working successfully with new authority. Federal operating authority gives a carrier legal permission to conduct regulated interstate transportation. It does not require every private broker, shipper, factoring company, or insurer to do business with that carrier. These companies may establish their own risk management and onboarding standards, provided those practices comply with applicable law. Therefore, an authority age restriction is usually not an FMCSA rule. It is generally a private business policy adopted by a broker, shipper, or financial partner. That difference matters. A dispatcher cannot solve the problem by arguing that the carrier is legally authorized. The broker may already agree that the authority is active. The broker is simply unwilling to assume the business risk associated with a company that has little or no operating history. Professional dispatchers do not treat this as a personal rejection. They recognize it as a market access problem that must be managed legally, patiently, and strategically. Understanding the MC number. The letters MC traditionally refer to a motor carrier docket number issued in connection with certain types of FMCSA operating authority. For many years, carriers, brokers, dispatchers, insurance agents, factoring companies, and load boards used the MC number as one of the primary ways to identify and research a transportation company. The MC number is commonly associated with the carrier's federal operating authority, while the USDOT number identifies the regulated entity and its safety-related information. These numbers are related, but they do not represent exactly the same thing. The USDOT number identifies the legal person or company registered with FMCSA. Operating authority identifies the type of federally regulated transportation activity the company is authorized to perform. A carrier may therefore have a USDOT number, one or more forms of operating authority, an MC number associated with that authority under the traditional registration system, insurance and process agent filings, safety and compliance responsibilities, state registrations, and tax obligations. New dispatchers sometimes speak about an MC number as though it were a license that can be borrowed, rented, or transferred casually. That is a serious misunderstanding. The USDOT number and operating authority belong to the legal entity to which they were issued. They are not generic trucking credentials that another person may borrow simply to gain access to freight. FMCSA issued a specific warning in March 2026 stating that USDOT numbers and operating authority must not be sold, purchased, rented, or leased outside a legitimate corporate transaction. FMCSA may inactivate the USDOT number and revoke related registrations when it discovers unauthorized use. The agency distinguishes this from lawful equipment leasing arrangements between carriers and owner-operators under applicable federal leasing regulations. This means a dispatcher cannot legally solve a new carrier's age problem by using an older carrier's MC number. A dispatcher also cannot place one company's truck, driver, insurance, or freight operations under another carrier's identity merely to bypass a broker's onboarding restriction. That is not a workaround. It may create serious problems involving false representation, insurance coverage, cargo claims, safety responsibility, tax reporting, contract liability, payment disputes, FMCSA registration action, and fraud investigations. Professional dispatchers protect the carrier from these risks rather than helping create them. Why brokers restrict new authority. A broker's authority age restriction is usually part of its internal risk management process. A newly authorized carrier has little operating history available for evaluation. The broker may not yet be able to determine whether the carrier consistently maintains insurance, delivers freight safely, communicates effectively, protects cargo, or submits accurate paperwork. The concern is that there is not enough verified information to make a confident decision. A broker may consider factors such as how long the authority has been active, whether the carrier's insurance has remained continuous, whether the carrier has completed inspections, whether the company's contact information is consistent, whether the carrier has experienced revocations or reinstatements, whether the company has been associated with suspicious changes, whether the carrier's safety information raises concerns, whether the carrier can be approved by the broker's fraud detection system, whether the broker's insurance, shipper, or compliance department imposes additional restrictions. Different brokers may reach different conclusions about the same carrier. One broker may require 30 days of active authority. Another may require 90 days. Another may require 6 months. Some may approve a new carrier only for lower risk commodities or lower value shipments. A dispatcher should never assume that one broker's restriction represents an industry-wide law. It is a company policy. That policy may also change based on fraud trends, insurance requirements, cargo value, shipper instructions, equipment type, geographic region, or internal underwriting standards. The professional response is not to argue. The professional response is to ask informed questions. For example, is the restriction based strictly on authority age? Does your compliance department offer a manual review? Would you consider the carrier after 30, 60, or 90 days? Are there certain commodities or customers for which new carriers may be approved? May we submit our insurance, W-9, safety documents, and company information for future onboarding? These questions do not guarantee approval, but they preserve the relationship and provide useful information for future planning. Authority age is not the same as experience. One of the greatest weaknesses in a simple authority age policy is that the age of a company's registration does not necessarily reflect the experience of the people operating the company. A carrier may have new authority while the owner has 20 years of driving experience. The driver may have a clean record and extensive experience hauling dry van, refrigerated, flatbed, or specialized freight. The company may be new, but the people may not be. Nevertheless, the broker is evaluating the legal carrier entity, not merely the individuals working behind it. This distinction is important. A new carrier should present its experience honestly without representing the company as older than it is. A professional carrier profile may state, date authority became active, years of experience held by the owners, equipment type and condition, and geographic operating area. A profile should also include insurance limits, safety and compliance procedures, tracking capabilities, communication standards, references that the carrier is legally authorized to provide, and prior industry experience that can be documented truthfully. This allows the carrier to demonstrate professionalism without misleading anyone about the age of its authority. The first months of authority. The first several months should be treated as a structured development period. The objective is not merely to survive until the MC number becomes old enough. The objective is to build a clean, credible operating history. That means the carrier and dispatcher should concentrate on doing the fundamentals correctly from the first load forward. The carrier should maintain continuous insurance, accurate FMCSA information, professional communication, reliable tracking, clean paperwork, and dependable service. The dispatcher should document every completed load. Useful records include broker name and MC number, load number, origin and destination, pickup and delivery dates, rate confirmation, bill of lading, and proof of delivery. Also tracking compliance, payment status, any detention or TONU documentation, broker contact information, notes regarding service performance, and whether the broker is willing to use the carrier again. Over time, this history becomes evidence that the carrier is operating as a real transportation company rather than existing only as a federal registration. The strongest answer to an authority age restriction is documented performance. Building a new authority broker list. A professional dispatcher should not repeatedly call brokers that are known to require 6 or 12 months of authority. That wastes time and creates unnecessary frustration. Instead, build a structured broker matrix. The matrix should include broker, minimum authority age, manual review available, factoring approved, equipment accepted, last verified, and notes. This information must be verified regularly because broker policies change. Obtain the information from the broker's carrier onboarding department or written requirements. This is how a professional turns a restriction into an operating system. Direct shippers and local relationships. Some new carriers attempt to reduce dependence on public load boards by developing direct relationships with shippers. This can be a valid strategy, but it should not be presented as an easy bypass. Direct freight requires business development. A shipper may expect proof of authority and insurance, reliable equipment, defined service areas, tracking capabilities, claims procedures, consistent capacity, professional invoicing, and written transportation agreements. A direct shipper may also apply its own authority age or experience requirements. The advantage is that the carrier may have an opportunity to explain its capabilities directly. Potential starting points may include local manufacturers, agricultural operations, building material suppliers, wholesalers, warehouses, and regional distribution companies. However, the carrier must approach these companies professionally. A dispatcher should not call a shipper and simply ask, "Do you have loads?" A stronger approach is, "We operate a 53-foot dry van and provide service throughout the Southeast and Midwest. Our team has extensive transportation experience, real-time tracking capability, and established communication procedures. I'm contacting you to learn whether you use outside carrier capacity and what your qualification process requires." That conversation treats the shipper as a potential long-term customer. Working with established carriers. A dispatcher may also work with a legitimate established motor carrier whose authority already meets common broker requirements. This is legal when the relationship is real, documented, and properly authorized. The dispatcher is performing dispatch services for that carrier. The established carrier remains the motor carrier of record and retains responsibility for operating authority, insurance, safety management, driver qualification, equipment control, broker contracts, cargo claims, and regulatory compliance. The dispatcher acts as the carrier's authorized representative within the limits of the dispatch agreement. This can create a practical opportunity for part-time dispatchers or students who are developing experience. A carrier may not need someone full-time, but may need support on certain days, lanes, or selected trucks. However, the relationship must be genuine. The dispatcher should have a written dispatch agreement and clear authority to communicate with brokers. This distinction should remain firmly in every student's mind. Dispatching for an established carrier is lawful business representation. Using an established carrier's authority to disguise another company's operations is not. Every technical account should match the actual legal and operational relationship. Protecting private carrier information. Motor carrier information must be handled carefully. Some information is public, but other information is confidential. A dispatcher may gain access to insurance certificates, W-9 forms, factoring notices, and banking instructions. The fact that a dispatcher has access to this information does not mean it may be shared. A student or software provider should never be given another carrier's MC number or confidential documentation for use as a substitute operating identity without specific lawful authorization. Professional dispatching includes information security. Protecting data is part of protecting the carrier. Technology stacks and part-time dispatching. Technology has created new ways for dispatchers to support carriers. A modern dispatch technology stack may include load boards, tracking systems, carrier onboarding tools, and CRM software. Every technical account should match the actual legal and operational relationship. Never guess. Never enter another company's credentials merely to get past a registration screen. Request clarification from the platform and obtain proper authorization. Access to a load board does not make someone the carrier. Possession of an MC number does not establish permission to represent the company. Every record should tell the same story. Motus, the new FMCSA registration system. The system the industry is beginning to deal with is called Motus, not Motus. Motus is FMCSA's new USDOT registration system intended to simplify registration and improve the user experience. FMCSA is considering eventually using the USDOT number as the primary identifier, with suffixes showing the type of registration or authority held. For example, C for property carrier, B for broker, and F for freight forwarder authority. These suffixes are intended as registration references and are not proposed as new vehicle marking requirements. Students must understand an important point. Motus changes the federal registration system. It does not automatically eliminate private broker age restrictions. A broker may still examine how long the carrier has been operating, insurance continuity, inspection history, and safety data. Credibility still requires established history. This reinforces a core professional principle. Every record should tell the same story. The legal business name should match, the address should match, the authorized contacts should match, the insurance should match. Clean and consistent data builds trust. Inconsistent data creates suspicion. What students must never do. New authority frustration can create pressure to take shortcuts. Nevertheless, students must understand certain boundaries. Never rent an MC or USDOT number, purchase an authority merely for its age, or represent a new company as an older company. Never submit false carrier packets, alter insurance documents, use someone else's factoring approval, misrepresent ownership, or allow a broker to believe one carrier is hauling when another carrier is actually performing the transportation. A truck sitting for another day is frustrating. A fraud allegation is far worse. Professional dispatchers protect the carrier from these risks. Common mistakes made by new dispatchers. The first common mistake is calling random brokers without tracking their requirements. The solution is a verified broker eligibility database. The second mistake is promising a new carrier that freight access will be easy. No dispatcher should guarantee unrestricted load board access for a new authority. Common mistakes also include confusing an active authority with universal broker approval, attempting to bypass restrictions through another carrier's identity, and ignoring documentation. New carriers must build evidence of reliability from the first shipment. Don't chase high-value or theft-sensitive freight too early. Every correctly completed load adds credibility. The professional dispatcher's strategy. A professional approach to new authority is as follows. First, verify that the carrier is legally ready to operate. Second, establish a truthful carrier profile. Third, build a broker matrix. Fourth, target realistic freight. Prioritize lanes and customers where the carrier can qualify. Fifth, document every completed load. Sixth, develop relationships. Seventh, explore direct shipper relationships professionally. Eighth, consider legitimate work with established carriers. Ninth, protect data and authority. And 10th, monitor Motus and FMCSA modernization through official sources. Every clean document strengthens the carrier's record. Professional performance determines what happens after doors open. Scenario 1, the 90-day restriction. A carrier's authority has been active for 42 days. The dispatcher finds a dry van load paying an excellent rate from Atlanta to Dallas. The broker states that its policy requires 90 days of active authority and refuses to make an exception. Discussion. Should the dispatcher argue that the carrier is federally authorized? No. The dispatcher should remain professional, ask about manual review, document the requirement, and schedule future contact once eligible. The dispatcher should then continue searching among brokers that currently accept new carriers. The professional lesson is straightforward. Do not waste time fighting a policy you cannot control. Build a system around the opportunities you can access. Scenario 2, borrowing an older MC number. An individual offers to let a new carrier run under an older MC number in exchange for a fee, without a written agreement or insurance explanation. Discussion. Should the carrier accept? No. This arrangement appears designed to misuse operating authority rather than establish a lawful relationship. Reject the arrangement and continue developing legitimate authority. Scenario 3, part-time dispatching for an established carrier. A carrier needs help 2 days a week. A trained dispatcher signs a written agreement and receives authorized access to book freight within the carrier's rules. Discussion. Is this an improper use of the carrier's MC number? No, the dispatcher is performing authorized services for the legitimate carrier. This is a lawful and practical way to gain experience. Scenario 4, Motus and the new identifier system. A student assumes Motus will eliminate broker authority age restrictions immediately. Discussion: is that conclusion correct? No. The number used to identify the company may evolve, but the need to establish credibility will remain. Broker will still evaluate operating history and risk. Every clean document strengthens the carrier's record. Chapter Review: New Motor Carrier Authority creates both opportunity and limitation. Professional dispatchers respond by building systems, not by seeking questionable shortcuts. They understand the difference between legitimately dispatching for an established carrier and illegally borrowing or renting another company's authority. Documented performance is the strongest answer to restriction. Building a credible operating history is the foundation of success. A new authority does not need a fake history. It needs a well-managed beginning. Every correctly completed load adds credibility. Every professional broker interaction builds a relationship. Every clean document strengthens the carrier's record. Every safe delivery moves the company one step closer to being considered proven. Authority age opens more doors over time. Professional performance determines what happens after doors open. Next up, building relationships with direct shippers. Next up, building relationships with direct shippers.